If your spouse passes away first, never say yes to these 5 costly mistakes. It's a truth we all try to push away into some corner of our mind. But one day when the silence in the house becomes more than just quiet, it becomes a presence. We're forced to face a deep and life-altering loss. I've sat with many seniors in my years as a doctor, and I've seen firsthand what grief can do. I've also seen the mistakes people make in the vulnerable haze of that grief. These are not small missteps. They are decisions that can change the course of your health, finances, and emotional well-being for the rest of your life. So today, I want to speak to you with honesty and care, as someone who truly wants to help you avoid these painful pitfalls. If your spouse passes away first, say no to these 5 things. The first mistake you must avoid is rushing into financial decisions. Grief plays a cruel trick on the mind. It clouds your judgment and narrows your thinking. Research from the Journal of the American Geriatric Society shows that cognitive performance in older adults temporarily declines following the loss of a spouse. This isn't just about forgetting where you put your keys. It's about your ability to make sound decisions. Banks, insurance companies, and even well-meaning family members might suggest you quickly settle accounts, sell property, or shift investments. But the truth is, this is the absolute worst time to make big financial moves. Give yourself time. Studies have shown that widowed individuals who delay major financial decisions for at least 6 months experience fewer regrets and financial setbacks later. This pause allows the fog of grief to lift a little and your reasoning to return. You are not being slow, you are being wise. The second mistake is isolating yourself. It may feel natural, the house feels too quiet, your routines are broken. You may think, I just need to be alone. But the danger here is not in needing space. The danger is in turning isolation into a habit. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that seniors experiencing loneliness had a significantly increased risk of dying within the following 6 years. We are social beings. Losing a spouse is like losing your mirror, your witness to everyday life. It makes sense to feel unmoored, but isolating yourself cuts you off from the very thing that helps rebuild resilience. Even if it feels forced at first, commit to regular contact with people, whether it's friends, support groups, or volunteering. Connection is a kind of medicine, a quiet kind, but powerful. The third mistake to avoid is neglecting your health. After a spouse dies, many seniors begin to ignore their own well-being. Meals become irregular, medications are skipped, doctor visits are canceled. This is not because you don't care, it's because everything feels heavy, but your health is now more important than ever. A study from the Harvard School of Public Health found that older adults who became widowed had a 66% higher risk of dying in the 3 months following their spouse's death, especially from cardiovascular disease. The shock of loss can literally break your heart. It is called broken heart syndrome, and it is medically recognized. So you must keep your checkups. You must eat regular meals, even if it's something simple. Your spouse would not want you to fade away. They would want you to continue with strength. That is not betrayal, that is honor. The fourth mistake is making big life changes too soon. I have seen people sell their homes within weeks of a funeral. I've seen them move across the country, change their routine, throw away belongings in a moment of emotional overwhelm. It's understandable. When the person you shared your life with is gone, everything around you seems to scream their absence. But upheaving your life does not erase grief, it multiplies confusion. Researchers from the University of California found that making multiple major life changes within the first year of bereavement increases stress levels significantly and can even lead to clinical depression. You need stability. You need familiar ground. Even if the house feels empty, it is your ground, your center. When your emotions have settled and your thoughts have cleared, then and only then, consider changes if you still feel they are necessary. The fifth and final mistake to avoid is dismissing your grief. I've heard it too many times. I'm fine. It was their time. I don't want to be a burden. But here's the truth. Grief is not something you get over. It is something you go through. Suppressing it doesn't make it go away. It only buries it deeper. And buried grief can show up as high blood pressure, fatigue, anxiety, even memory loss. The American Psychological Association reports that unresolved grief in seniors often leads to higher levels of physical illness and chronic stress. Talking to a grief counselor or therapist is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of courage. Joining a grief support group is not dwelling in sadness. It is choosing healing. You do not have to suffer in silence. Expressing your pain, allowing tears, sharing stories, these are all vital parts of living through loss. The pain honors the love that came before it. You see, the death of a spouse is not a single moment. It is an unfolding experience. There is no calendar for healing, no magic date when things go back to normal, because they won't. But that does not mean you cannot live a meaningful life after. What matters is how you care for yourself in those tender, early months. Do not rush. Do not isolate. Do not neglect your body. Do not rearrange your life on impulse. And do not hide your grief behind a smile. Each of these mistakes, if avoided, can build a foundation for the next chapter of your life. Not one you asked for, but one you still deserve to live fully. I remember an elderly patient who lost his wife after 54 years of marriage. He came in for his annual checkup just weeks later. I asked him how he was. He said, "I am not okay, but I want to be." And that honesty, that quiet admission, was the beginning of his healing. He didn't pretend. He didn't rush into selling his house. He started walking every morning, even though it reminded him of their old walks together. He began journaling, something he'd never done before. He met others who had gone through similar loss. A year later, he told me, "I still miss her every single day, but I don't feel alone inside anymore." That is the power of saying no to the wrong things. So if you are facing this painful path, or if someone you love is, remember this. Grief does not mean the end of your story. It means your story is continuing in a new voice, in a new rhythm. But it is still yours, and it still matters. Say no to those 5 costly mistakes. Say yes to patience, to connection, to health, to thoughtfulness, and to honesty about your pain. You will not erase your sorrow, but you can walk with it, and with time, it will walk beside you rather than over you. Let yourself heal. Let yourself live. Because love does not end. It simply changes shape. And you, dear one, are still worthy of the care, comfort, and peace your heart longs for. How do you keep their memory alive without living in the past? How do you keep their memory alive without living in the past? This is a question that touches the core of grief, especially in the later years of life, when the passing of a beloved spouse or lifelong partner leaves a silence that feels almost too loud to bear. As a doctor who has walked alongside many seniors through loss, I've learned that this question doesn't have a quick answer. It's not about forgetting or moving on. It's about carrying love forward without letting sorrow anchor you in yesterday. It's about honoring what was while still making space for what is. After the death of someone we love, our minds often hold tight to the past. We replay conversations. We remember their laugh, their routines, even the way they folded towels or stirred their coffee. These memories are precious, but they can become a trap when we use them to avoid the present. According to research from the National Institute on Aging, individuals who remain stuck in what they call persistent complex bereavement often experience long-term emotional distress, sleep disturbances, and even physical illness. The key is not to forget. The key is to shift how we carry that person with us. One of the most meaningful ways to keep a loved one's memory alive is through rituals. These don't have to be grand or ceremonial. They can be as simple as making their favorite recipe on a certain day or lighting a candle during quiet reflection. A study published in the Journal of Positive Psychology showed that personal rituals after loss helped grieving individuals find structure and meaning in their daily lives. These rituals offer a sense of connection that doesn't freeze us in time. Instead, they become bridges between then and now. They allow love to live in the present. Another powerful way to honor memory without being consumed by it is to share their story. Tell others about who they were, what made them laugh, what they believed in, what they taught you. When you do this, you don't just relive the past, you give it new life in the minds and hearts of others. Research from Harvard University found that narrative memory, the act of telling stories about loved ones, helps people process grief more fully and build emotional resilience. It gives shape to the loss and transforms it into something that others can carry forward with you. Sometimes people fear that if they move forward, they are somehow betraying the person they lost. I have heard patients whisper, "If I stop grieving, does that mean I didn't love them enough?" But grief is not proof of love. Love was there all along. What honors them more is living your life well, taking care of your health, smiling again, pursuing the interests you once shared, or even discovering new ones. You are not leaving them behind when you do this. You are carrying their spirit into your present choices. The American Psychological Association notes that people who integrate the memory of a lost spouse into their evolving identity are more likely to experience peace and a sense of emotional well-being over time. Writing can also be a beautiful tool. Journaling your thoughts, writing letters to your loved one, creating a small memory book filled with stories and photos. These actions help you process the weight of your emotions while preserving the essence of the relationship. A study from the University of California found that expressive writing helps seniors manage grief symptoms and lower levels of depression. The act of writing is not just about remembering. It is about transforming the memory into something you can live with and grow from. Volunteering or giving to causes that matter to your loved one is another way to honor their legacy. If they care deeply about children, animals, or the environment, you can step into those spaces with their memory in your heart. It becomes a way of continuing their work in the world. This kind of living tribute has been shown to foster post-traumatic growth, a concept recognized in psychology that refers to the positive psychological change experienced as a result of the struggle with highly challenging life circumstances. Giving from a place of love softens the sharp edges of loss. It's also important to create new routines and relationships. This does not mean replacing your loved one. No one could. It means expanding your world again, letting light in through the cracks of sorrow. Forming new connections does not diminish your past. It adds to the richness of your emotional life. The Social Integration in Aging study conducted by Duke University found that seniors with broader social networks reported higher life satisfaction and better cognitive function. By stepping into community, you invite joy back into your life without shutting the door on what you have lost. What often helps my patients the most is reframing how they think about memory. Memory is not a museum. It's not meant to be a dusty collection of artifacts. Memory is living, breathing, fluid. It shows up in your voice, in your choices, in how you treat others, and in how you treat yourself. When you laugh at a joke your spouse would have loved, when you teach your grandchildren the lesson they once taught you, when you face a difficult moment and hear their calm words in your mind. These are the living threads of memory. You are not going back in time. You are pulling the best of your past into the present where it can still shape your life. There will always be moments that bring the grief back. A song, a smell, a photograph. And in those moments, the ache may feel fresh again. That is not failure. That is love continuing. You can sit with it, acknowledge it, let the tears come, then return to the world of the living with the knowledge that you are strong enough to carry both sorrow and joy in the same heart. The path through grief is not about forgetting. It is about finding a way to live where love is no longer in front of you, but within you. You can keep their memory alive by living a life they would be proud of. You can speak their name, celebrate their legacy, share what they gave you with others. But you do not have to freeze your life at the moment they left. You are still here. Your days still matter. And even in their absence, their love can continue to shape who you become. So if you find yourself wondering how to keep their memory without getting stuck in the past, know this. You do it by walking forward with open hands, by choosing life again, by turning remembrance into action, by loving others the way they loved you. That is not forgetting. That is transformation. That is the quiet, courageous work of continuing a beautiful story. One breath, one memory, one step at a time.